Hello, and welcome to another episode of Beneath the Surface. I have a very special guest here today, Alan Cooke.
So maybe you guys want to know a bit about my background. I'm a writer, filmmaker, poet, keynote speaker. I've done voice teaching, stage acting, and a journeyman across the landscapes of Ireland. I do a lot of bardic poetry. I won an Emmy in New York back in 2009 for a film called Home. If you want to look at that, it's on YouTube, about my journeys in immigrant in New York City. So I have a myriad of interweaved abilities and talents, and I drink a mean beer.
Alright, there you go. I had no idea about any of those things. They're the main thing.
Yeah.
I did not know you had an Emmy and all that. Oh my gosh. But yeah,
I've got a nice coat too. So
yeah.
This is better, seriously better, it's more practical.
The proof is in the coat, you know.
Yeah, I can't wear an Emmy, unfortunately. I could glue it to my head and use it as a battering ram.
But yeah, I thought I'd bring up for the podcast the movie and just the conversations we've been having later at night with everyone. I'll give them a little bit of a basis. We're in Ireland right now. The usual episodes will be in New Hampshire, and this is a very exciting first episode. So I'm here with my two pals, Kieran and Connor, and. This is a hostel that we've come across, and just to give a little bit of context. I thought we'd talk about the movie to start off.
Well, basically, I'll tell you the background story. I was working as an actor in Ireland, and then this will give you the time frame now. It suddenly seems a long time ago. The towers fell in New York, and then I made this incredibly intelligent decision to go over and live in New York after the towers fell. But we'll go into a mythological context for a second. Little did I know, looking back clearly now, because I was quite young at the time, that was clearly an initiatory subconscious action. So what I did really was throw myself into the fire of a big city in a big moment, and maybe ejecting myself from a life that I didn't even understand who I was truly at all at the time.
Okay.
But I made that leap into the city, and then I started for the first time properly writing little monologues and vignettes about observing this incredible landscape of the jungle of human nature, as I call it, in New York. So that evolved into a project with a girl that I'd met, and she just said, "Why don't we film you walking around the city and talking about New York?" And it became Home, which is the name of the film. And we said, well, what if we could get someone well known to talk about their experiences of New York? And then suddenly we'd gotten Frank McCourt and Woody Allen and Liam Neeson.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and Susan Sarandon and all these kind of big heavyweights who are also big, well-known New Yorkers. And in between all that, the context of this writing evolved as a sort of an improvised journey across the city. And in the end, what we ended up capturing was very much a sort of a painting of the city, a portrait of the city beyond that one incident, because 9/11 was never brought up. We wanted to do something that was hopeful and filled with the sort of tracks of humanity.
Wow.
So it unfurled quite beautifully from an initial seed of an idea, and that's the beauty of America and New York, is that the willpower can have magic in it, because it's anyway.
No, yeah, I mean, I think that's like the idea of kind of ejecting very human moments from a very inhuman environment, or at least seems inhuman. I mean, even though humans create like New York and these big cities, but like we were talking about like McDonald's and like how people who work there really build like a relationship. You know, they're not just going home angry, going to work angry. At least hopefully, that always happens. But that's really interesting, because my brother lives in New York, actually. My half brother lives in Brooklyn, New York, and he tells me about sometimes, there's immense violence and there's a lot of stress that's put there. And I think it's because one of the reasons, because it's basically like an anthill. It's like so many people all condensed into one conglomerate thing. Yeah. So I think finding I just like what we talked about, like finding those gems that are always there with human relationships in a place of that quantity is really a unique edge on filmmaking, because I don't know if you've heard of it was like, it started YouTube, it was New York, what was it? It was
New York Stories, no.
Yeah, it was like
small vignettes, weren't they?
Yeah, they were like they'd find random people in New York and interview them basically, and
that was sort of what I did as well.
That reminded me of that. I was like, oh, did you?
Yeah, we took in. See, I agree with you, and it's funny because so many synchronicities happen. Like, for example, we went up to a guy called David Amram, who's New York's first composer or symphony composer.
Wow.
And he wrote the score for The Manchurian Candidate, which is a film from the 50s, a famous film.
Oh my god.
But he was also best friends with Jack Kerouac.
Okay.
And some of my work is, and this is me being sort of compared rhythmically to people like Jack Kerouac, so I felt a kinship with being on the streets, the language of the streets, the language of humanity, the language of purpose-felt people moving through a jungle of 9,999,000 notes. But what I found in that was exactly what you're talking about, the miracle of the other, which is a smile or a moment of exchange, hearing a language, or because you're devoid of nature, then you get upset, you get it really into the human nature of each other.
Yeah.
And there's a vast learning curve in New York about learning the dynamics of how to deal with people.
Yeah.
So I just try to capture the fact of, especially now in our Trumperian era of anti-immigrancy, how important the immigrant was to the soul of America and the soul of New York. He's the crop from which great ideas are born. And one of the lines I have in my film is, when you have everything taken away from your family, your friends, your home, as most immigrants had in the early days when they left forever, what do? Who do you fall back on? Who do you rely on? You fall back on yourself.
Yeah.
And from that, immigrants build empires.
Yeah.
From the self-reliance. Self-reliance is what drives a city like New York, you know?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. It's really quite incredible how many different, like, no one really, not many people really think to stop and in the bustle of New York, stop and speak to someone else. Maybe it's out of fear. Maybe it's usually out of fear. I'll be mugged, I'll be robbed, I'll have a weird experience. But I feel like that's the point of life. At least one of the points is stopping and having a little bit of an intimate moment with someone. Like having a little bit of that whatever level of intimacy it would be, even if it was holding the door for someone or, anything at all. I feel like that I think any level of that is always worth a shot, unless someone's like coming at, like minus the extremes. But I think that's why I'm starting this podcast is because all these, like, the best moments I've had in growing up and my teenage years, and I'm like turning 21 soon.
Yeah, happy birthday.
But it's weird because, like, I haven't even really started my life. There's so much ahead, but it's
unlikely, but thanks.
Yeah.
Too hopeful. You're scaring me.
But it's weird because I've had these experiences in like Peterborough, New Hampshire, and like all these places in New Hampshire, and like, the times that I've gone away smiling the most have been the times I've gone the most intimate and the most vulnerable. Yeah. Like with whoever it was, with a complete stranger or with, one of my closest friends. I don't need to, wear any sort of mask or anything like that, in any part of my life. I shouldn't feel the need to, at least, especially, growing up in the era, I feel like every era had this of parents wanting you to be something that you're not, or friends wanting you to be something. We're already it, we're already enough. And once we realize that, ironically, that opens up to the true potential that we carry.
I think mythological journeys, I think we're both interested in them, and I've definitely lived them, is an act of self-realization rather than self-actualization. It's less about this sort of big ignition of illumination, more like, this is the stuff I don't need. Yeah. And you're stripped down. It's like Michelangelo with the block of stone and chipping away and realizing that the beautiful thing was already existed. He had to find his way through, Yeah. And at this point in my life, having been in art, I guess, for 20 years, it's some journey, like, but I realize now that the process of art making is a process of unknowing and unlabeling.
Yeah.
And words, you find the unknowing and unlabeling through words, through art, through film, and through interactions, I think. And I thought New York was an extraordinary journey of going into the layers of humanness. But when I came back here to Ireland, then back to where I grew up, although in the west of Ireland where we are, I wasn't born here. It's a very different place. I came to another much deeper realization of the total interconnection of nature and your spirit, of nature and the word, of nature and your inner language, and of nature and of it trying to incessantly inform you of the miracle of it all. It's trying to speak with you all the time, and that's where my poetry came from. That's where all my art comes from, is this marriage to the language of nature and trying to discover all the time what it's trying to speak to me, and can I be a vessel for it or through me. And my most beautiful creative moments as a writer in poetry has been pure. All my work is not composed, it's channeled. It's, I guess, for want of a better word, I don't sit around and go, how do I compose this? Every poem I've written has no grammar necessarily in terms of full stops or commas, because I don't believe I should tell a human being where to stop and think. I like to find either exist through the rhythm of the work or the intention of the soul of the work, or it actually it exists in their way of seeing something. You know? And I mean, I could look and say most of my art comes from the reference of impending death. Yeah. Because that's the ultimate alchemist.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. So if you start taking the alchemy, the trick is to not cross over into death, but do the alchemy first. How do you do the alchemy first? You meditate and you live with the idea of death every day. Yeah. That becomes alchemy in itself into your everyday interactions. You've got to merge the idea of death into your beingness.
Yeah, don't run away from it.
To make it really profound and much more profoundly live life. Yeah. You know, so...
We need it. We need it.
And that's where all my work comes from, death in a way. Yeah. Because a rose is beautiful only because it lasts a while. Yeah. It's beautiful because it will die. Yeah. That's what gives it its luminosity.
We need it.
You know.
Yeah. It's the Tao. It's the shadow of you know, like, it's so weird. I've had like a billion moments in existing here for 21 years or whatever that are very hard to explain, but there are moments of okay, something went wrong. It could be literally anything, and then the next day I'm like, wow, like, I'm so lucky to be on this planet. And and like really consistently, like that is not a coincidence. Yeah. You know, I feel like there's always a balance between order and chaos, life and death, male and female, whatever it is. Yeah. You know, light and dark. There's always that there, and no matter how deep you are in, you know, depression and suicidal thoughts, whatever it is, there's always going to be hope. You know, Frankl explained that well. Viktor Frankl in Man's Search for Meaning. It's just like, even in those horrendous conditions, you know, it was much harder, but people found some sort of reason to move on, like the bird. You know, like that's my wife looking over me. You know, Man's Search for Meaning, just for context, is a book about an Auschwitz
Man's Search for Meaning, isn't it?
Man's Search.
About his experience. Yeah. And actually, that one fateful moment that really strikes me was his parents had gone to America. Yeah. And he could have followed them, but he didn't. And obviously, that had a true big impact on his fate. Yeah. But within that kernel of a direction came all this, but then we never would have read the book. Yeah. We never would have had all this impact.
There's so much. Oh my gosh.
I was talking to you the other day about not feeling regret about anything, because each decision unfolds an infinite amount of, I call it the infinite infinites. Yeah. Another infinite set of decisions, which creates another set of infinite decisions. So one decision doesn't define your fate. Yeah. It's 1,000 micro actions at every moment, and is that synchronized by the divine, or is it just you anyway? So it's too complex to say, oh, I shouldn't have done this, now my life is too complex. Over. Like that should give you hope. Yeah. Because you realise that life is so full of the variables of the unknown. Yeah. That it's much richer to live that way than live in the sort of, looking at the past, I should have done this or that.
I really wish I learned that at like age 11, because like a lot of my middle school and high school years, like I just like wouldn't. I had this mindset of I had this like game over mindset.
Yeah.
I don't know where it came from, and like my parents didn't give it to me.
Quite nihilistic, really, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, so if I like royally like fuck up once, like, oh well, that's just the rest of life. It's like that, you already messed up. That was my mindset. It's like, oh well, it's just not even worth it.
Yeah.
And I was at age like 11. I was like, okay, well, I played it. Like, life was like a game to me. It was weird. It was like, okay, so I know these things are wrong. These things are wrong too. I just won't do these things, and I'll be great. I'll have an A+ score on this game. But then it's like, oh, if I dirty it or whatever, if I soil it, then the rest is garbage too. So then, like, I only recently learned that is unbelievably toxic and dark.
Yeah.
Like 3 years ago, like I was losing sleep on just thinking about what I did, the things that I've done that I most regret. And I felt a physical, like, every time I thought about it, I felt like a physical, like, heaviness. Yeah. And I'm realizing, I'm still realizing, it's like, it's a pebble now, not a boulder, but it's like I'm still realizing that, unconditional love and forgiveness is hard to,
cultivate, master, bring
bring
it to action.
Exactly. Like we practice unconditional love and forgiveness to our family members, to even our pets, and our people, strangers. Yeah. But we just have so hard of a time on ourselves.
Yeah.
That's an interesting concept.
I sometimes think we need to be shown that. This whole spiritual modern movement of like, oh, love yourself. Like it's like saying go get a hamburger. Like making a hamburger is easy. Loving yourself is really difficult. It is. Because you don't quite know what that is. Yeah. And when people say like, oh, stop feeling sorry for yourself, I said, well, nobody else is. So I'm feeling sorry for myself because I'm giving myself self-compassion. Yeah. That's what feeling sorry for yourself is. Yeah. It's self-compassion. Yeah. So a lot of the new age language now has really turned the older languages like compassion, melancholy, longing, kindness, and turn them into all these real passive-aggressive modern pseudo-speak. Yeah. It's in a way of actually separated this even more now. Tribalism. Someone gets hit by a truck, you can't stand up and go, oh, you called this in, it's karmic fate. No, the truck driver was eating a hamburger and he wasn't watching where he was going. Yeah. It was just fucking really bad luck. Yeah. So, It's like people are always formulating a reason to say, oh, that's like their fault completely, even though it was like really situational, like a million things involved. Exactly. It's way too complex. I had a car accident here. You probably can't see the scar. I got 50 staples in my head 3 years ago, and it was an accident. Yeah. But I put a lot of blame on myself out of it, and regret, and the moment I wish it never. It was only a tiny crossroads. If I had happened a second later, my whole fate. Always see, there you go. Parts of my fate would have changed, but then I wouldn't have ever written the book. I wouldn't have met you guys. I wouldn't have been out. I wouldn't have walked the landscape for 3 years, and I had a newer integration of understanding of Ireland. So these are the days of our lives. These things happen. Not everything's necessarily for some higher divine purpose, but looking back now, clearly over the last while, there's been a divine plan. It's almost like there's an Irish philosopher called John Moriarty, and he said sometimes a parable is acted out upon you. Yeah. So you get these things happening almost like seem biblical, like these extreme dramas, like what happened to me. My marriage was gone, my mother died, my cat died, my car accident, I lost the place to live. All those things happened in the space of 2 years. Oh my God. So there was the ingredients of alchemy, right? Yeah. So here I am. So I wouldn't trade in that kernel of events, I can say now, because the character that I've evolved into, the alchemy that I've transformed with, and the truth of my inner self that I've seen is part and parcel to do what I had to walk through. Yeah. So and I can tell this I could tell, like, when I first met you, I was like, this guy has passed through some shit. He's not running away from it. Mm-hmm. He's like, you're clearly not bitter about it. You're clearly not. I wasn't for a long time. I was quite angry. Yeah. About feeling like these events. Yeah. All of them were out of my control. Yeah. the only thing that's in your control is your reaction to it. And the reaction to it is the thing that changes you.
Yeah.
Your reaction to it is the life changer.
It is.
So I don't mean you put on some gleeful smile and go, everything's fine, like some Buddha thing.
No, you need to be angry.
But you need to process. You don't, and try not to self-medicate all those dark wounds.
Yeah.
But let them unfurl in you. Let them self-correct you. Let them transform your own inner state. Let them occur.
Yeah.
But just make sure you've got good friends and a base of sort of like some kind of thing where, for me, it was connection with nature or creativity, to keep alchemizing the stuff that's coming up, that it releases, that it reveals. It's like a pollen, it goes poof.
Yeah.
And some people can't handle it and they kill themselves, or they drink themselves to death, or they cause violence, or because the correction has taken so long. It's like trying to turn a metal ship at a wooden oar.
Yeah.
You think it's never going to happen, but you do come through it.
You do.
And then you have the mechanisms, the evolutionary skill sets to help and see it in others. Because all of this came down to me, because I was very selfish for a long time. The final part of the healing of that was service.
Yeah.
Was helping others.
Yeah.
I'm truly, genuinely only interested in helping as many people as I can. I'm not no saint, but I find it's the fuel in my spirit.
Yeah.
It's the service. It's like the fuel in my spirit, you know.
That's wow. You really
Bored you?
No. Yeah, cut. That's it. No, but like
this is only the 40th take. It's going really well.
It's insane how spot on ever since I learned that I deserve love and forgiveness.
Yeah.
I have fully practiced and thought about and re-practiced the reaction idea. Like, it's how you react to the shit that will turn you into who you truly want to be,
and also who you really at the very center of that molten party, who truly are.
Yeah.
And a lot of people skirt around their lives like a planet going around a moon going around the Earth for the rest of their lives, and never quite get to hit into the center of that thing. And people know when they know someone who's been through that thing and evolved into their true selves. Yeah. They know it. Other people can feel it often. Yeah. Some people are threatened by it. Some people are very wary of it. Some people, it sort of freaks them out.
Yeah. It's like, why aren't they like scared? Why are they so at peace? You know, it's like, wow, no, people are at peace. You know, it's like, what is, like that old man in the video, in the movie.
Yeah, John Joe, yeah.
Like, I just, by looking at his face, I was like, this guy's, you know, figured his, you know, shit out, a lot of it. You know, and I'm not saying he doesn't deal with shit, you know.
Of course not.
Of course he deals with
but
shit.
it's like a fire.
Yeah.
He's shoveling in everything all the time.
Yeah.
That's been his way of being. And in the Burn, the area we're living in or staying in, the west of Ireland, there's so many elements here that are very, they're like sanding you down. Like the Burn is 300 million years old. You get these dark winters, you get rain, you get storms, you get isolation, you get loneliness, you ponder into the depths of nature. All of these things, and if you walk like I've walked a few thousand miles here, like the guy John Joe from the film that we watched, are wearing away everything till you're just left with this beautifully sculpted soul. Yeah. Now John Moriarty talks about something very beautiful. Something you guys should look up is a dolphin fits perfectly into his environment. The ocean he's sculpted around the movement of the ocean. Yeah. But human beings are sort of awkward. They don't fit into the landscape. Yeah. But a dolphin fits perfectly. The idea is you can't do it through the body. You do it through the soul. Yeah. You sculpt your soul, and your body sort of almost follows suit. So you ever see someone who's in their true soul self, and they're luminous from head to toe. Yeah, they are. There's something about them, and that's a sort of an inner sculpting that eventually goes on the outside. And that's what that guy John Joe was. He was sculpted by his environment. He was. You know. Even literally, it's been, I don't know, 5 days I've been here with the guys. It feels like a lot longer. Oh my god. Haven't slept, haven't eaten. Stressing everyone out. Yeah, no, we're knocking on doors at 3 o'clock in the morning with a clown suit on. And what the hell? What's your obsession with clowns and being a clown? And he kept saying, send in the clowns, and he goes, oh look, they're already here.
5 days, eternity, 5 days, what's the difference? That we've been here, I've honestly felt like the most growth out of these 5 days that I've, like, just doing the work and like and reading and walking and eating like the food that you got, the amazing food you got. It's just like on so many levels, I feel like I'm finally becoming, or hitting that next domino of becoming that sculpted.
Yeah.
And I think I'm gonna come back here someday.
Yeah, you should. It's not turn into a casino,
No, yeah.
Or a car park.
Yeah.
Bog Hill car park. This way, level 4.
I'll be here with my clown suit and everything.
Just standing in an empty vacant car park.
Yeah, that's some sort.
Hey, send in the clowns. Whoa, wait.
Whoa,
we're already here.
Send in the clowns. But I really do, because I can see myself, without the two, Kieran and Connor, it might get more lonely than it has been. But I think,
that's where other growth happens as well, though.
Yeah.
As my friend, a beautiful man I know, Dennis, said, turn your loneliness into solitude.
Yeah.
And there was a long period of time where I was terrified of being on my own.
Yeah.
Now, having come through all the storms, I love being on my own.
Yeah.
It's so comfortable to come home to yourself.
Wow, that is.
And be really happy that. And then it's not like you go through a period of like where you don't want to be around anybody.
Yeah.
But then you want interaction, but at the same time you want that selfhood of peace and the treasure of refueling from your inner self.
Yeah.
Instead of it taking from you, it then starts to give back to you.
That's really rare, being able to think with yourself. My mind is turned on me more times than I can count. I've literally convinced myself that I am some sort of dark, merciless, like, just like demon, basically, like that at the core of me, like the deepest part of me, is some sort of evil.
Interesting.
Yeah, like I can't put my finger on it.
I think I've gone through that. That's the seedlings of your shadow work that's ahead.
Yeah.
That it's really just your psychological entity going, you're going to need me at some point and to integrate me more, because we all have the shadow in us.
Yeah.
And,
we all have these capabilities.
Did you ever see Star Wars, the original Star Wars movies?
Yeah.
The first one, Star Wars, The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi.
I think I was really young, but yeah.
You should watch them again.
I should.
You should. They're really deep mythological
They
stories.
are. No, it's the redemption
story. Yeah.
It's older than man. It's like as old as man.
I feel like my life is being lived in those 3 planes, because the first film he's innocent and white, standing in the planes, like me standing before I went to New York going, oh, what's out there, something in the distance. Yeah. And the second one is I got slammed. That's what my book is called, Beauty, Loss, Redemption.
Yeah.
So pause. Freeze frame.
Yeah. Alright, we get it.
So Beauty, Loss, Redemption. So the loss occurred with all the stuff I briefly explained to you over a long period of time, actually.
Yeah.
And then the redemption part.
Yeah.
Like when Luke Skywalker loses his hand and he comes back in the third one and he finds out Darth Vader's as far as he's broken apart in the Empire. And they're in, but the third one he comes back and it's the way I am, right? He's got a robotic hand, and he's got a knowingness about him now, and he's more aware of the dark side, and there's sort of an integration going on. And the last part of it is him becoming, although in those 3 films it goes on, sort of more of a sort of an alchemist.
Yeah.
That he's aware, he takes from sources and creates, gets more powers from the dark and the light and the wisdom and the scars. Yeah. So I believe the redemptive part is actually where human race is right now. We've had the beauty, our beginning, our pre-civilization. We've had the loss, man, patriarchal society, the ego, the development of the ego. Now we're losing everything right now. But then redemption is the last part. Yeah. Where I was saying to someone today, why is it all these great people that come to Bog Hill? Nature is calling us together, because we've had so much of the bad. The good are almost silently, subconsciously gathering forces in the most powerful way, not through marching, not through these movements that are so publicly divided, and then sort of like they're manipulating turns of.
Yeah.
This silent connection going on is the ultimate power of nature. It's actually teaching us how to just reconnect silently without the system really knowing. I believe we're all actually bonding and reconnected together, almost like a force of cells just gently coming together. And no system is aware of it happening because it's happening on a one-to-one basis. And that's the most powerful and unstoppable force you can have. It's a new system of ideas that's intangible, that can never be dominated. So I believe it's quite a revelational thing that's coming.
You can feel it. It's an energy.
And you can feel it, and then it's true.
Yeah, you can.
You know,
it's what's. Wow. Yeah. Wow.
What's the next question?
Oh God.
I'll read some poems.
Yeah, definitely. That sounds
so
good.
The book is primarily called Beauty, Loss, Redemption: Poems from the Soul of Ireland.
Okay.
And I wrote this a couple of years ago at the midst of all the loss, and I took 60 of the 300 or 400 poems that I had written at that point, and I condensed them into sort of a triarch of a journey.
Oh my gosh.
And
where can I purchase this?
I need to get more copies, so it's not quite out there, but I will maybe read one or two.
My guess.
Actually, this is a good one, the one I like reading a lot.
Yeah.
I should have this memorised, really. Up where I lived, and I lived in some very wild places in the Burren, which is a very wild place as itself by the Atlantic Ocean. I had come from New York, then Dublin, so I never really lived in a country area or rural area. And it took me a long time to realise that these types of areas are the heart of Ireland. And there was a man I met, I lived on a plateau in a very lonely place with my ex-partner, and there was a man we knew who lived beside us in a tiny broken cottage. It was like something out of the film. He didn't seem real. He had really crappy looking clothes. He had 6 cows or 7 cows, and but he had this beautiful luminosity in his eyes. And we only knew him a while, and then he died of cancer. But what I found in him is that he never moved from that plateau all his life. He was born and he lived and died up on that rock, on that 300 million year old planet of burnt stone, limestone. And from him I learned that his movement, his lack of movement from any place, was how the river of the world came to him. And seasonally, the more he lived in this one place, the more he learned about the nature of himself, and also the nature of the idea of life, I think itself. That's what I felt from his energy, that character that had been born over and over again. Yeah. So this poem is called The Farmer's Hands. It's a good, I guess it's a good rendering of, because you're watching a film last night. The language of the landscape, the language of man here. So, So, it's called The Farmer's Hands, an ode to Patrick O'Leary. Winter bore a man of earth, a barren lonely man, his olded eyes and sun-creased face, staring from his cottage in a dark and lonely place. I died before I knew him well. Cows circled his broken home, taking vows of silence as the rain poured in. He was a ghost who walked alone. He had hands of rock, and he moved like the wind has a sovereign, silent clock. He tasked his animals with gentle care. I would see him through the windows, a ragged ghost of the holy air. Whilst others lined the concrete roads, filled with worries and heart-filled loads, Patrick would ponder the depth of a lake or the size of a whiskey for his guests to take. Generations from his clan stared into the flames of a fire that burned, that had no name. His wrinkled hands and Guinness lips, his devil smile drinking in sips. The limestone wasteland was his place, yet his sauntering feet left not a trace. His words, they felt like an ancient song, passed from the mouths, from his blood long gone. He was an epic man who outran his fate, yet his funeral was sung by a bird on a gate. Patrick. Finches knew on the wings of time that Patrick flew on the rhythm of a rhyme. For the poem of Ireland kept his belly full, the rich broken landscape of the meat of a bull. And at night, small universes spoke his name in homage to his cottage that was moonlit, because he was a man untamed. If you drove in the night, you would see his shape wandering the roads like a ghost trying to escape. But now he's left, gone toward a distant sun, and the bachelor king leaves behind no one. When you visit the burn, look for an empty dirt road near a magnificent dolmen beside a broken abode. Call out the name Patrick O'Leary in the night, and you might just see his laughing shallow light. For the men of the West, the old farmers one and all, carry the soul of Ireland and will never, ever fall.
Jeez. Oh my gosh.
So that's a tribute to him. I sometimes visit his grave.
Yeah.
And what I find about death, which I've experienced quite a lot of it in the last couple of years, unfortunately, is that there's a grace that occurs. When my own mother passed away, I never quite knew the woman intimately. I knew her as my mother, obviously, but now I know her as something far beyond that archetypal title. I believe I have a much more deeper relationship with my mother now, in a state of grace, really. That I know that someone out there knows more than I ever will now. Yeah. Her knowledge is extended beyond what she would have known in this mortal life.
Yeah.
So I've learned a lot about death from thinking about her in where she is.
Yeah.
The mystery of it. Mystery. That's very rich.
The mystery. Yeah. I love talking about that.
Yeah.
It's yeah. Wow. That was gorgeous. The mystery of, I really liked talking about, because all my life, like, really strangely, ever since I could have a cognitive thought, I've been like, okay, so there's this thing called death, and then we are, I guess, in life, but, you know, I grew up in like a Christian family, and I've taken a lot of wisdom, and I still am, and I will for the rest of my life, from, you know, Christianity and Christ, you know, and a lot of stuff like that. But, you know, I'm very curious still on the myriad of different conclusions that the ancients and people nowadays have. You know, I don't want to, you know, I research Buddhism a lot of the time. So I'm not like subscribed to one right now. I'm kind of like in a search mode of the mystery, and I think the mystery of that is a lot of what the fire of, like, the mystery is like the coal that kind of like keeps me like, okay, like, what's next? What can I learn? What are other conclusions that people have come up with? Near-death experiences, you know, psychedelics, religion, you know, all these different ways that you can connect with the divine, or at least on some level, you know, the next, you know, whatever it is.
Well, you mentioned something about search mode. My friend is 92, and she's still in search mode.
Yeah.
My other friend's mother who died was 93, and she said to me a few days before she died, she looked at me in the hospital when I went to read poetry to her and says, "Do you know where we're going?" So I don't know how. All I answered was, "Wherever you're going, I'm probably going there too. So we'll be all together at some point, one way or the other."
Yeah.
But therefore, she was still looking.
Yeah.
It doesn't end.
Yeah.
The search to your last breath.
Yeah.
You know.
And I don't think that, you know, and I think that's definitely like death, like death should be celebrated. I think that should be celebrated.
Yeah, absolutely. And here in Ireland, we have a great tradition of the wake, of putting the body, in the old rural areas, putting the body in a coffin, leaving the coffin open in the living room, and then, you know, having an honourable party or sort of a meeting and gathering over a few days to bring death into the room where there was once life, but also to give life to death and death to life.
Yeah.
They're like a willful exchange of one another.
Yeah.
You know? I just want to read another poem.
Definitely. Yeah, and then we could finish things up. Yeah.
Great.
Definitely.
This one's called A Stag. It's about my encounter with a lot of what I started to see was the animal language in nature and how it replaced my actual internal urban language.
Yeah.
And so I started to take a lot of feeling and signage or symbolism of just like a white horse came down my path one day and stayed with us for 6 months. So that was an extraordinary. I found that the white horse is very powerful Native American initiatory medicine, initiation into the journey. So that was quite powerful.
No, yeah.
And this one was based. It's called the Stag because one time I was driving and I turned around and there was 50 deer and a stag standing right behind him.
50?
Yeah, just standing there roughly. It was like God had dropped them out of his hands, and all this morning traffic was ignoring this miracle, and then I looked around and they were sort of scattered and gone again. So stag is also one of the mythological king animals of Ireland.
Yeah.
So the poem's called A Stag. The great stag heart sits upon history. His weight is his silence. His beauty is his myth. His longing is ours. There is a Celtic wound under his hooves. Is the wound and the trampled earth of memory and loss. It is in my bones. It is in my blood. His fur glistens with mud and grass and valour, and yet today Ireland despairs. Ireland and the stag console the ancient soul within me. What kind eyes has he for my tears? What perfect balance in darkness? What movement on this crooked earth? So I keep the shape of the stag, a sense of his soul. A taste of the earth where I traced his footprints, and somewhere in a lonely bed, in a dream time lost, I follow him into wastelands bold and broken. His brown eyes are medicine when all the stories have been lost and the scars are left to thicken, replaced by the gentle sound of a galloping king, its antlers piercing galaxies, leaving the scent of what is to come again with time.
Jeez, freaking Louise, that's insane. Do you have some of this stuff online? I gotta read some of this stuff.
Well, if people want to research me, just type in
name and then like
Alan Cooke. Well, go to the movie first. It's on YouTube. Home. Just type in Home and Alan Cooke and Liam Neeson will come up on YouTube.
Okay.
The whole film is there.
Yeah.
And I've done a lot of talks. Some talks around Ireland. I'm doing one tomorrow evening, but I haven't. The book was only a vanity publishing.
Totally.
So a lot of people have asked me that they want. I've sold
Yeah.
a few copies. I need to get a lot more done because I've done a lot of group work up here when they've all wanted the book. So
Yeah.
I've been hiding, or in best way to explain, and end with a little analogy. So when the butterfly is transformed from the liquid that was once a caterpillar, it comes out of the sac or the shell to fly. But it has a tremendous struggle in coming through that tiny hole to get through so it can fly in the world.
Spread its wings.
It seems so impossible to get through that what they did once is they cut it open a bit for the butterfly and it came out quicker, but it died. And they're like, well, why did it die? So they examined it microscopically more closely and seen at the very, very top of the hole is tiny, tiny microscopic filament of a certain kind of chemical. And the last part of his journey needs to be immensely struggling because he has to get his wings coated.
Wow.
So that's a great metaphor for life.
Yeah.
The darkest part, the toughest struggle, the most insanely impossible obstacles are really, as we talked earlier, an alchemy to coat your wings so you can fly. So that's where I've been getting my wings coated, and that's why I'm only coming back out into the world.
Yeah. All right. Well, my God. On that note, I'll end it. So thank you guys so much for tuning in to the Beneath the Surface podcast. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram, and check out his book. It's something I'm about to check out. I'm very interested. So thanks so much.
Thanks for listening. Cheers. Take care.
See ya.